These 10 fetters, first one is, I will just read out so that in case so that you get the right things up there. First one is Sakkaya Ditti, or self-delusion. Second is Vichikicca, or skeptical doubt. Then Silabbata Paramasa, that is the clinging to rites and rituals. Then the fourth one, Vyapada, aversion, hatred, anger. Kamachanda, sensual desire, lust, sensual craving. Then Arupa Raga, Rupa Raga. Rupa Raga, clinging to the realms of form. Arupa Raga, clinging to the realms of formless. Then Udacca Kukucca, restlessness, worries. Mana, conceit or pride. And finally, Avidya, ignorance or delusion. Then, what you see on the other side is, I've written that when the first three fetters are broken or eradicated, then one attains to the first stage of sainthood, Sotapanna, or one enters the stream, Sotapatti. Sotapanna or stream winner. When the first three are eradicated and the further two more fetters, fourth and fifth one, are put under control. In other words, when the first three are eradicated and anger, aversion, and sensual desires or lust are under control, are checked, then the second stage of sainthood can be attained, Sakadagami, or a once returner. It is only when the fourth and fifth one are totally broken or eradicated, in other words, all forms of anger, aversion, and sensual desires are eradicated, then the one attains to the next stage of sainthood, Anagami. That is the once returner. Never returner. And there are 5 other fetters. There are 5 other fetters. Rupa Raga, Arupa Raga, Udacca Kukucca, Mana, Avidya. When all these 5 are broken, is it? And one fetter broken. When all these 5 fetters, all the 10 fetters are totally broken, then one attains to that last stage of sainthood, Arahat or Arahant, the worthy one. I shall try to explain one by one these fetters, these 10 fetters, or dasa samyojana. The first one is what is known as Sakkaya Ditti. Sakkaya means with body. So the view that people hold that there is such thing as my body. In other words, the idea of the self, the I and the mind. As long as there is this idea of I, mine, the gross idea of I and mine, or egotism, then the fetter is still there. It is only when we are able to break this fetter of I and mine, in other words, when we begin to see the true nature of ourselves, and then when this fetter is broken, Sakkaya Ditti, then the gross concept of the self is broken. So the person now no longer considers everything. He does not speak in terms of I and mine. Even if he uses this word I and mine, then he would use it in a conventional sense without giving rise, without the feeling of I, without the feeling of mine. And that is what you call, until one has broken this, one is still considered in the worldly, a putujjana, an ordinary being, and still with that egocentric or egotism, always referring to I and mine. That is the first fetter to break. Then the next fetter is with regards to doubts. There are various kinds of doubts. There are doubts with regards to our practice, the methods, what method is suitable for us. There are doubts even with regards to the Buddha's enlightenment. There are doubts with regards to the Dhamma, whether the Dhamma that we have heard, the Dhamma that we have read, whether they are really the Dhamma or not. Then there are also doubts with regards to the Sangha, whether there are such thing as noble Aryan Sangha, whether there are such thing as those who have already gained enlightenment, whether there are any Arahants, whether there are any Sotapanna, Sakadagami. Now, these are doubts with regards to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. As long as we have doubts in our minds, then these are the fetters. They are things that binds us in this samsara. It is through practice, through our own realization, when we are able to break these doubts. There are also doubts with regards to the past. In other words, some yogis or meditators, after attaining to certain state of concentration, certain state of development, they may begin to doubt about their past, what they were in the past. And also they may have doubts about the future, what they will become in the future. Sometimes they even have doubt about the present, what they really are. Now, these are doubts which are, this how we explain, fetter. It is a fetter to enlightenment. Only when all these doubts are broken, then, together with the first one, and the third fetter is that of the clinging to certain meaningless rites and rituals. Silapata paramasa. Certain rituals, certain where people practice, even during the time of the Buddha, they perform certain penance. They mortify themselves, they torture themselves. Sometimes they behave like animals because they have the view that it is by performing such a ritual, such practice, it is only by performing this ritual, this practice, that they can purify themselves. So that kind of clinging, silabhata paramasa, that is a fetter. So when these three fetters are broken, these three fetters are broken, then one attains to that first stage of sainthood, Sotapanna, or in Burma they call Bonsinsan. In Sri Lanka they call Sowan. And Bonsinsan. Is it? I heard Bonsinsan. I'm not so sure, you must take that. Thailand they call Sotapan. Sotapan. Sotapan, and then Sakat, and then second one, do not know. Third one is Anagam. So this Sotapanna. Now, by understanding these teachings, you can have some idea how a Sotapanna would behave and conduct himself. But you cannot tell by the face unless you have studied. You have studied the art of studying people's faces to understand their mind, the nature of their mind. Otherwise, you cannot tell them by their face, you cannot tell them by their dress. Sometimes they may behave in a very funny manner. You remember, they still have anger. They still have aversion. But of course, it is different from ordinary beings. Their anger, aversion, and their sensual desires are very much reduced, but still not completely under control. Not completely under control, but very much reduced. But they have no clingings to rites, no clinging to rituals. They don't have the view that they must practice certain, they must go through certain practice, how many thousand times, or they must walk on fire and, sleep on what you call torn beds and other things to purify themselves. These kind of beliefs they have forsaken, given up. And also with regards to the enlightenment of the Buddha, his teachings, the Dhamma and the Sangha, such a being who has entered the path, he has absolutely full confidence in the Buddha, the Dhamma and the Sangha. He has no doubts whatsoever that the path he is treading, he knows that this path, this is the path, this is the way. No, for him, he knows it, so he is confident. It is only a matter of time for him. And according to our tradition, it says that those who have attained to this first stage of sainthood, at the most, if he does not strive, at the most he will have 7 lives. In other words, 7 births, at the end of which he will attain. And so that is the nature of the first stage of sainthood, or Sotapanna. Stream winner, stream enterer. Then, when he further practices, and 2 more fetters are under control. The fetter with regards to vyapada, hatred, anger. Now he keeps them under control, well under control. And also sensual cravings, lust, are under control. But still not fully eradicated yet. So when these 5, the first 3 eradicated and the next 2 are under control, then he attains to the next stage of sainthood, Sakadagami. He becomes what is called once a returner. Once returner in the sense that he will be born. He can be born in this samsaric existence once. And then when all the first 3 plus the next 2, Vyapada and Kamachanda, or aversion and sensual desire, totally eradicated. These 5 are fully eradicated, then that being attains to anagami. Anagami means never a returner. Never returner in the sense that he is not born in this samsaric existence. But he can still be born in the higher realm, the Brahma Loka, not in the sensual realm. He can be born in the realms of the Brahma Lokas, the realms of form can be born, or the realms of formless. And it is from that realm he does not come back to, does not fall back to the other forms of samsaric existence. From there he will realize that Nibbana. In other words, from there he will attain to full sainthood. Then the last stage of sainthood, or Arahat, there are 5 other fetters to be broken. These are the clinging to the realms of form, because even in Anagami may have some clinging to the realms of form. These realms of form are when they have attachments for various jhana rupa, arupa jhana. Because when one dies in the state of jhana, rupa or arupa jhana, then one is born in these realms of form, rupa or arupa loka. When the clinging to the realms of form and the clinging to the realms of formless are broken, together with the other restlessness in the mind, agitations in the mind, worries. Arahants have no worries. No worries. And then with regards to mana, yes, we use in English word, we use the word pride or conceit. But actually, this word derives from that verb Bhnate, to measure. To measure, in other words, to compare. So an Arahant does not compare himself with another person. By comparing, we mean he does not think that I am better than you, or I am your equal, or I am not as good as you are. There are these three ways of comparing, right? Either you say that when you compare yourself with another person, you can say that I am better than he is. Or you can say we are equal. Or you can say that I am not as good as he is. These are the three ways by which we can compare ourselves. By these comparisons, we can give rise to pride, to conceit. But we can also give rise to another, inferiority complex. So that is why the word pride and conceit does not convey the full meaning of mana. Now, when we think that we are better than others, or when we think that we are his equal to that person, then some elements of pride can come up. Of course, when we think that we are not as good as he is, then inferiority. So really, mana gives rise to inferiority and superiority complex. And for an Arahant, for one who has attained the last stage of sainthood, there is no longer this sense. And eventually, even the last state of delusion, avidya, is no longer there. His mind is clear, bright, no more taints of ignorance, no more delusion. What is this avidya? Avidya is explained clearly in the text, in particularly in reference to the understanding of the Four Noble Truths. Right? The Four Noble Truths. The truth of dukkha, unsatisfactoriness, the truth of samudaya, that is the cause of dukkha, the truth of nirodha, the cessation or the end of dukkha, and magga, the path, the way that leads to the cessation. We use the term Four Noble Truths, but in reality it is only one truth, because when one is able to clearly realize and see dukkha, the moment you see dukkha, you will also see the cause, you see the end, and you see the path that leads to the end. Just as a physician when he develops his skills in curing other people, the moment he is able to understand the disease that his patient is suffering from, the moment he is able to identify that is the disease, this is the disease, immediately he knows the cause of it. He will know the end, the cure, and he will know what prescription to give. So, this is the nature of the Arahat's mind. The Arahat's mind, an Arahat is fully freed from this. But there are different kinds of Arahats. There are different kinds of Arahats. Some Arahats have developed according to their past, in their past lives. Some have developed certain skills, certain abilities to help other people. In fact, there are some Arahants who in the past might have certain bodhisattva idea also. In other words, certain idea to help all sentient beings. But in the course of his past, he can change. From that bodhisattva path, he can change and he can attain to Arahant. Such Arahants we call Arya Bodhisattva, noble Bodhisattva. And then there are some Arahants who have not got all the skills, who have not acquired the skills of enlightening others. They are enlightened, but they cannot enlighten others, although they are themselves an inspiration to others. They can inspire others, but they have not got the skills to lead others, to enlighten others, to teach others. So there are different kinds. So these 10 fetters explains the nature of such beings. So if you are really sincere in looking around for such beings, you have to yourself cultivate. Because it is only through your cultivation that you will begin to appreciate the values and also certain aspirations. By making certain aspirations and channeling your efforts, your energy towards that direction, then you can have that opportunity. And as what Chief Reverend mentioned just now, an Arahant will not say that he is an Arahant. But we can understand that he is an Arahant when he says that these things I have overcome. These things I no longer have in my mind. And not only that, although he does not proclaim to public, he can relate certain of his experiences. The way he teaches others, he can say that he has gone through these things, this way, and this is the path to take. That he has gone through this path, he can declare he has gone through this path. But he doesn't go around and tell people, look here, I am Arahant, and you must give me a proper seat, a proper chair. He is an ordinary person, an Arahant. He has no such honorific title as such. And he moves around, he can move around with ordinary people. But his mind, if you want to see an Arahant, then his mind, you have to be with him long time, see, and you see that there is no. Watch and observe these qualities, these fetters. Whether there is any taint of anger, any taint of hatred, any taint of craving. And also his private life and his public life, there is no secret. No secret. That's the meaning of Arahat. Ahara. No secret to him. His life is open. The purification of the mind can be attained through samadhi, and there are two ways to purify the mind. One is by way of ceto vimutti, by freeing the mind from all thoughts. Ceto, that means freeing the mind from thoughts. The other one is panya vimutti, by gaining freedom, gaining purity, freedom through insight, through knowledge, insight. And what's your question? Samadhi? You cannot attain to samadhi without checking, without putting these 5 mental hindrances under control. What are these 5 mental hindrances? First is kamachanda, sensual desire. This is an impurity. This is a defilement. It has to be checked. Vyapada, anger, aversion. Tina midda, sloth and torpor of the mind. Udacha kukucha, restlessness, worry, remorse. Vichikicha, skeptical doubts. In other words, these 5 mental factors have to be at least temporarily under control, for there to be real samadhi to arise, full concentration to arise. So, this concentration, that is why the Buddha says, when in the Noble Eightfold Path we speak of right concentration. This is a right concentration. When the defilements come, defilements are checked, and then the jhanas arise. This is that jhana, that is right concentration, absorbs states of mind. There can be wrong concentration too. People with defiled minds can concentrate. Angry mind, they can concentrate with anger, with hatred. And also they have a lot of energy. But their energy is a destructive one, not a constructive one. Your question is, if I get it correctly, that did you all hear her question? No. That she says she read a book on the subject on faith, and she gets the impression that the faith is not important. Is that right? Huh? And I do not know what the book says, but to my mind, I think when we talk about faith, because the word faith has become associated with blind faith. So then that blind faith is not important. That blind faith is not good, actually, to have. But certain amount of faith with regards to the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha is necessary to begin with. Certain amount of confidence in the Buddha, his teachings and the Sangha is very important to start with. Otherwise, we cannot start our practice. So, we must have a clear understanding and distinguish between blind faith and rational faith. The term saddha in Buddhism means more to a rational kind of faith. Just like the confidence that you would have when you are in school or in the university, you have your confidence towards your teacher or your lecturer. You have that confidence in them, then you can learn. If you have no confidence, the moment your teacher enters class, in your mind you say, he cannot teach me, he does not know what I do, whatever he teaches, do not know yes or no. You have no confidence at all. So you cannot learn. You will not be able to learn. Confidence is important. The element of confidence. Yes.
Faith is belief. Belief. I believe. We use the word believe. The word we believe when we are not sure. Understand? I believe that this is a mic. If I know that this is a mic, not necessary to use the word believe. I have faith in this mic. So that faith is not important. Faith is changeable from time to time, according to our understanding. For many things we have developed faith when we were children. After education, we had to withdraw many of those belief and faith through understanding. Certain belief and faith that we maintain today, again we will change in time to come, according to our maturity, experience and understanding. But confidence never appears at once in the mind. Confidence appears in the mind by knowing that it is true. That confidence is not changeable. That is why the Buddha did not emphasize for us to develop this faith at once. Many religionists who highlight the faith is the most important things in a religious life, develop some sort of blind faith in their mind later this faith crystallize in the mind and become very stubborn and fanatics. All those who have developed only faith become religious fanatics. They are not ready to change their faith because of that blind faith they have developed in the mind as truth and fact. They are not ready to listen to the reasoning or justification. These are the main reason why Buddhism does not emphasize the faith is the important thing for us to understand or to lead a religious life.
Her question is whether it is possible to attain the first stage of sainthood without renunciation. Yes, it is possible. It's not only the first stage. You can also attain up to the last stage without renunciation, without becoming monk, as an ordinary person too. But there is an internal renunciation, not external renunciation, but you have to renounce internally. Renounce what? Give up greed, give up hatred, give up delusion. That is what is important. This external form of renunciation is to protect oneself, so that you keep away from the others from coming to you, or you associate in certain group of people who have certain ideals, so it is easier to cultivate. No? Mm-hmm. Yes, but there are, and we should not think that there are no Sotapanna amongst non-Buddhists. Do not think that only Buddhists only can become Sotapanna and can attain sainthood. Who invented the robes? Oh, I see. This is in fact, this style of robes that you wear, it is the most ancient and it's the simplest form of clothing. And very ancient religious garb, and that we still adhere to. In fact, do you know, that's why when you use this kind of robes with one bare shoulder and you walk in the streets in Malaysia, those Muslims people will not laugh at you, because those who have been to Haji, they appreciate. Only thing they don't use like this. Because I remember one day, and I have seen in a newspaper, some ministers, and in bearing one shoulder, and wearing just like robe, and Chief Reverend used to tease us and say, see how many ministers became monks. And actually, they had gone to Haji. And during the last phase, when they are walking around when they want to walk around the black stone, the sacred stone, then they will bear one shoulder. And they will also use white, and then white cloths, just like a robe, and go around. The ancient Greeks, they also wore toga, robes like that. It's a very ancient form of, protecting the body. See? So one hand, you don't have, because you are not going to fight with people, so one hand keep, and one hand you can use. Use one hand. You have to carry things, you have to do something, use one hand. No? And but this kind of design have been designed by the Buddha and Ananda. Because those times, what happened was, those monks, their robes were very close, were very hard to find. So what they do is, they will go to the cemetery, the graveyards where they burn the bodies. When they burn, they don't fully burn like nowadays, you see. They burn a little bit, and then after that they leave the body. So certain parts of the body are not burned. So the clothes are also not all burned. So those clothes that are not burned, some are partly burned, those clothes now no longer belong to anybody. It has no owner, right? So the monks can go and pick up these things. They will pick up these things and they will cut. And they will cut the usable portion, those parts that can still be worn. And then they will sew it together. No? So Ananda once asked the Buddha this question. While they were traveling together, Ananda asked the Buddha, how should we put all the pieces of cloth together, sew our robes? Then the Buddha, very practical teacher, they were traveling together, they were walking on the, on the paddy field. So the Buddha says, Ananda, you see the paddy field? You can sew your robes like this. Is that right? So this is how our robes have the paddy field design. Yes, our robes, if you see carefully, there are 5, 7 or 9. They are paddy field design. They have the batas. They have the batas and they have the, what do you call that? The field itself, right? And the small path of walking. So you have the big one and the small path. And so from that time onwards, the robes have been sewn in this manner. Okay? These realms of form and realms of formulas, it is not so easy for us to elaborate because they are beyond these sensual realms. They are not the realms that we can see. But when you come close to that state of mind, when you are able to enter the jhanas, Rupa jhana, when you develop your jhana, Rupa jhana, Arupa jhana, then you can understand what is this realm of form or formulas. Until such time, you just keep it in your mind that there is such thing as realm of form and formulas. I also, long time ago, when I hear about these realms of form and formulas, yes, to me it does not mean very much. You see. And I try to imagine the form, what is the form and what is formless, empty space and this and that. And yes, the realms of form, when one enters into, one takes an object, a form, object, and then one develops one's concentration and attain to absorption in that form. And then, when the person dies with such a state of mind, he is born in that state of form. If the object that he takes is a rupa, that means is form. Any of those forms, say earth, water, wind, fire, you see. Or if the object which he is meditating on is on the formulas, such as space, infinite consciousness, infinite space, nothingness. These are all the higher realms of, then he can be born in that realms of infinite consciousness, realms of infinite space, realms of neither perception nor non-perception. But all these things now, for the time being, it is just words. It has to be words to our ears, that's all. Because it can only be understood really with, as one progresses, then you can have better understanding of this. So for the time being, you should just believe it. We use the word believe. And no need to accept fully, just believe a little bit. When you have faith in the Buddha, the Dhamma and the Sangha, what happens is, the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha teaches us one. Teaches us to have faith in certain moral, certain spiritual values of life. So there can be people who do not know. And they have those values. They may not know the Buddha. They may not have heard of the Buddha. But they have cultivated these values. You see. So they may not be Buddhists. Take an example. During the time of the Buddha, see, who is this? You know, Sariputta, Moggallana, they were Brahmins. They were Brahmins. They were not Buddhists. But when they saw Asaji, that Reverend Venerable Asaji, when Sariputta saw, then Sariputta approached. And upon hearing just one verse, you see how far he has cultivated his mind. Without having seen the Buddha. He just heard, this is the teaching of the Buddha. Immediately, he attained, he entered the path. There are different kinds of arahants. There are 5, There is I can't explain. I think Chief Reverend will explain to you that. And
Arahant, attainment of Arahanthood means complete purification and perfection in their human mind. Many of those Arahantas have not developed or gained any supernatural power or miraculous power, just only purity and perfection. After that they attain their nirvana. It depends on the method that they practiced earlier to gain or to attain this. And there are 2 methods for our meditation. You have heard, samatha and vipassana. Those who practice samatha by training, taming, calming the mind, they develop jhana stages, gain jhana stages. And in the end, at the last moment, somehow or the other, they had to shift over to vipassana. Without depending on vipassana, there is no complete purification in the mind. And they are the ones who can perform certain supernatural, supernormal powers and read others' mind. You know that well-known story of a lady, even without becoming a nun, without any renunciation outward renunciation. A lady who has learned how to practice meditation from a group of monks attain the anagami, the third stage of sainthood. Now this lady can read others' mind. When she surveyed those monks, she found out these monks have not yet attained this stage. The lady who has learned meditation from the monks gained it earlier. This clearly shows that ladies are not stupid. They too have potential, but they had no opportunity. So by knowing this, the Buddha has given all the facilities for them to carry on their noble religious life without any discrimination. So later, those monks were very ashamed. Oh, what a pity, this lady who has learned meditation from us attained the higher stage, we are still in the lower stage. Then they too used their full effort and attained. So, this reading others' mind and understanding or recalling their previous births also, not all the Arahantas can do, those who develop through this channel. But those who develop Vipassana meditation, Vipassana means real understanding, proper perspective, without depending on outward manifestation. But they do not try to train the mind just like the samatha, those who practice samatha meditation. Through realization, through understanding, they develop, and when complete realization appears in three characteristics, anicca, dukkha, anatta, only these three. Everything that which exists in this whole universe is anicca, impermanent, changeable. Everything that which exists in this universe is unsatisfactory. Never give complete satisfaction. In the end, create unsatisfactoriness. In everything that which exists, there is nothing for us to differentiate or find out as eternal or everlasting substance. It's called unsubstantiality. When you analyze, in the end there is nothing to point out, remain. All the others say there is something to remain, that is called soul. The Buddha has rejected that also. Those who can understand these three characteristics, the nature of existence, then gain or attain that arahantahood through vipassana. But they do not perform any miracles. Clear understanding and complete purity in their mind. Now, you can take a simple historical evidence. When King Mahinda appeared in India, he is from Greek origin. He had so many questions regarding the teachings of the Buddha. At that time, there were so many arahantas, but none of those arahantas could not answer his question. The book is available, Milinda's Quest, the questions asked by King Mahinda. Then a young monk appeared. He could manage to answer all his questions. So it clearly shows, although they have pure mind, although they are perfect, their knowledge of the Dhamma regarding various aspects, what the Buddha has taught, all are not able to answer, explain. Many Arahantas cannot explain the Dhamma, but they are pure and holy and perfect. Now see how many groups are there. So, this is the difference between Arahantas and Buddhas. Arahantas' services are very, very limited. What they have learned from the Buddha through the Dhamma and what they have developed according to their meditation, so they can render limited service to others. The Buddha is the only one, as I mentioned the other day, by understanding the mentality, understanding capacity, character, temperaments, attitude and moods and this and that, directly point out. Arahantas cannot do that. Understand?
I think it is time, and we will stop here and continue with the next session. So, yes, audience, you want to ask? Okay, audience, yes, okay.
There are pure abodes called certain Brahma realms where these anagamis remain until they attain Arahanta. Understand? So they never die as anagami without becoming an arahant. And there is no difficulty for them to become an arahant because they have eradicated all the heavy burdens from their mind. Only little bit remained, the dirt in the mind, he purified there and attained nirvana. Arahanta, their death take place as arahantas, then nirvana.
Okay. So you want to attain the anagami? Yes? I think we will continue tomorrow, okay? For tonight we will close and please sleep peacefully.
Some time ago, a Burmese monk came here. He gave a talk on meditation and he claimed that he has attained anagami, never returned a stage. I think he's in Australia now.
No, he has
left already. He attained anagami. Then, in my talk, I mentioned, I believe what he has said. Because those who have come from Burma never return.
Okay. I think that's enough for tonight, and we'll continue later on. Good health and peace.